Morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everybody who tunes in and watches us online. If you died today, how would you want to be remembered? What would you want people to say about how you lived? About the kind of person you were, the kind of parent, the kind of son or daughter, the kind of coworker or neighbor or friend? What would you want them to say about how you showed up in life? About what you did, about the attitude you had, about the way you treated others, about the way you made other people feel? What would you want people to say about how you lived this life? It kind of reminds me of these three guys that die and go to the pearly gates. And St. Peter asked them all the same question. It says, and you're in your casket. What would you like to hear people say about the life that you lived? And the first guy said, well, I would like them to say I was a great doctor and I helped a lot of people, that I was a great family man. And the second guy said, well, I'd like to hear, while I was in the casket, I'd like to hear people say that I was a great teacher and that I really made a difference in the lives of children. I was a great husband to my wife. And the third guy said, well, what I'd like to have heard when I'm in the casket is, look, he's moving, he's moving. And so, it's a bad joke. All right. Mercy applause, I'll take it. All right. 450 BC, 450 years before the birth of Christ, Socrates said these words: the unexamined life is not worth living. And it sounds kind of negative, but what he's really saying is life is such a precious gift, such a precious and limited experience. It behooves us to pause and take time and think about, how am I living this life? Is the way I'm living my life the very best way? Is there something I need to change? Is there some area that I need to improve in? Is there something I need to do differently in how I approach and how I show up in life, in my relationships, in my attitude, in the work that I do? Donna Markova, at the age of 30, was diagnosed with cancer. And then she actually was pronounced dead on the operating table. And she had this experience while she was dead. She said it was like she was falling upward. And into a very, very safe place. She said all of her questions were answered. And she discovered and realized that her spirit was indestructible. That her spirit was light and love. And that in this experience, she was also asked a question: what is the unfinished business you still have to do in life? What is it that you are still supposed to give to life? And so she was resuscitated, and she came back with a clarity, with a calmness, with a confidence, with an understanding, and she lived more courageously. She said she switched her focus from getting to giving, and it transformed her life. She went on to get her PhD, to become the CEO of a company that taught organizational learning and growth. And she also was one of the co-founders of the Women's World Wide Web. And she wrote a book called I Will Not Die, An Unlived Life. Every one of us wants to live a great life. Every one of us wants to express and experience more joy and to create and achieve greater things. We all want that because there is an evolutionary impulse in every single one of us. Every one of us is hungry and desires for greater joy, greater fulfillment, greater experiences. And while we all hunger for that, and that's in all of us, sometimes I think we don't know how to do it. We don't know what to do to take to help our lives improve and progress and experience a level of fulfillment. What we usually do at the beginning of the year is create some resolutions and set some goals, and those are good and fine. But if we really want to expand our lives to a higher level of joy, happiness, success, and fulfillment, we need to set a higher intention than just to increase income and buy this or buy that or become this. And what it takes is to set an intention to live a more awakened life, to live a more enlightened life, to live a more conscious life, a more intentional life, to live a more spiritual life, or really to live a more masterful life. To live a more masterful life. I've mentioned I love that TV show Kung Fu. Used to love that movie. I always get confused that the old guys, they didn't look very athletic. They didn't look so powerful. But the Kung Fu masters would take on and beat the young guys who were strong, powerful, and fast. And I was confused as a kid. It took a while to realize the reason they were masters is because they have a greater level of awareness and understanding of how the movements worked. They had practiced them to the point of they knew them so well that they used their wisdom and their awareness, their calmness, their understanding. And they moved slowly and deliberately, not got wild and fast, but they did it in a way that was so effective, so efficient, and so productive. It was masterful. Can you imagine living your life more masterfully? What would your relationship look like if you showed up in a more masterful way? What would your career look like if you showed up in a more masterful way? What would all your problems and all the situations of our lives that are challenging look like if you showed up in a more masterful way? So today we are in the 9th and final week of this wonderful series. I've just been loving this thing. It's called Mastering Life. And it's based on the book, This Life is Joy by Roger Teal. And one of the things he says in it is that life is governed by spiritual laws. And you got to learn and apply those laws. And the more masterful we can get with utilizing the laws, the more masterful we can be in all situations. And the areas for us to learn how to be more masterful tend to be in the areas that he kind of calls the caves. The areas that you think are blocking you from happiness and success and joy. Those are the areas we need to focus on, to become more masterful in. You know, somebody once said, the cave you're afraid to enter holds the treasure that you seek. You know, sometimes when it comes to our problems or conflict or fear, you know, or disease, we want to run from them. But what it's saying is face it. Go into that cave, but go into it with a masterful consciousness, a more awakened awareness. And that when you do, moving through that experience in a masterful way will lift you to a higher level of fulfillment, a higher level of success, and a higher level of joy. And in the story, he tells about this guy that was in this cave and he was struggling to get out of it and finally gave up and was exhausted. And only when he was exhausted, he took a deep breath, he closed his eyes, and he realized that the power was within him. The cave, he wasn't in the cave was in him. And as he expanded the light and the awareness of his power, the impact of the cave shrank. So everybody, I want you to think of a situation in your life right now that's challenging you, that isn't going the way you want, and ask yourself, what is your relationship to that situation? And can you see yourself rising to a level of awakeness and enlightenment to have a more masterful relationship with that thing? To not run from it, to not hate it or despise it, but to rise above and have a more masterful relationship with it. Over the last several weeks, we've been talking about being more masterful in fear and conflict with disease and desire. And we're going to wrap up the series by learning how to be more masterful in our relationship with risk and our relationship with our own hearts. So everybody, I want you to think about risk. When you think about risk, what kind of thoughts and feelings come to your mind? I think most people are afraid to take risks. They're nervous to take chances because risk represents something that's scary and potentially something that is kind of dangerous. And so I think most of us, our relationship with risk is it's a relationship we rather not have, or we rather have more distance or just not go there. It's an avoidance-like relationship with risk. Because anything that is risky or scary to us, we'd rather not do. We'd rather not have it. You know, I think most of us sometimes want to be like Phyllis Diller, who once said, housework won't kill you, but why take the chance? How many people have ever had something you wanted to do or achieve, but you're too scared and you didn't take a chance, you didn't take a risk? Anybody have one of those? Okay, about 7 or 8 of us. This is fantastic. And you know, most of us, when we think of risk, we think of things like jumping out of an airplane and going skydiving or running with the bulls in Pamplona or playing Russian roulette. We always think of risk as crazy things, but there are small risks and chances that we don't take in our everyday life. There are times that we don't take the chance of asking someone in our lives for what we really want. Sometimes we won't take the chance to share what our true feelings are with a loved one. You know, sometimes we won't take the chance, you know, to start a new business or write a book or something that we really want to do, or to go after our goals and our dreams. There are all kinds of things that we just don't take a chance. We won't ask for a raise. We won't go talk to somebody that we want to talk to because we're afraid, and we just don't take the chance. We don't speak up. We don't make career moves. We don't make investments because we just don't want to take a chance. We want to play it safe. And so Mark Twain had one of the best quotes I said about that I think about this. He said, 20 years from now, the things that we'll be most disappointed and the things we regret most are not the things that we do, but the things we didn't do, the things we wish we did. The things we regret aren't going to be the things that we said, but the things we wish we said. So I ask you, what in your life do you wish you had done? What are the things you wish you had said, the wish you had gone after, that you wish you had created? Risk is not a scary thing. In fact, it's a vital and crucial thing to live a more awakened life, to live a more successful life, to progress, and to reach levels of greatness and magnificence. Somebody once wrote that everything you do in life is a risk. When you laugh, you risk looking a fool. When you cry, you risk being sentimental. When you reach out to someone, you risk being involved. When you love, you risk being rejected or not loved. When you go after a goal, you risk failure. But the fact is, the greatest risk is to not risk anything. Because it is only in the risking, it is only in the taking of the chance that we expand, that we learn, that we grow, that we experience greatness and happiness and fulfillment. So how do we improve our relationship with risk? Is first to not avoid it, but to embrace and have a relationship with it where we understand that it is through risk that we can experience greatness. That risk is a path to greatness. And then the second thing is to really think about the things that we want in life. I think the greatest risk is besides doing nothing, the greatest risk is not being true to yourself. That is the greatest regret that human beings have. Remember that book that we did, the top 5 regrets of the dying? The number one regret human beings have is that I wish I had the courage to live a life that was true to me rather than the life that other people expected me to live. The truth is, the risk we have is not singing the song we came to sing and not giving the gift we are here to give, or not experiencing the life and the love that we're here to experience. So I ask you, where in your life are you not being true to yourself? Where in your life are you not being authentic and not doing and creating and experiencing and expressing the truth of who you are and the truth of what it is that is in you that you are here to do and experience and call forth? I looked up a bunch of quotes by Steve Jobs. I was just so inspired by him. And almost every one of his quotes has something to do with listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, and don't let the voices of other people drown out the voice of your inner voice. He said, life is short. We don't have enough time, so don't waste it living somebody else's life. Live your life. Those great words of, to thine own self be true. And so my question for you is, where in your life aren't you being true to yourself? And are you willing to listen to your inner guidance and begin to live your authentic life? To do what it is you're here to do, to share what it is you're here to share, and to be who you came here to be. Because the truth is, sometimes when we don't, we settle and we choose to play small. We choose to shrink. We choose to live apologetically. And the truth is, that's not who we came here to be, and that's not why we came here. And so understand your relationship with risk, but then know the most important thing you could do next is just listen to your inner guidance and be true to yourself. And then the second thing, but besides getting clear and being true about who you are and what you came to do, the second one is to trust your invisible support system. You remember in the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? He was supposed to cross this, there was this huge gap between these two mountains, and someone told him there was an invisible bridge there. And so he threw a little bit of sand and he saw that it caught. So he knew there was there. And so even though it was invisible, he walked all the way across because he knew and trusted that there was a support there for him. Sometimes we're sheepish about going after things we want because we're scared that we'll fail or fall or horrible things will happen. And the truth is, you have an invisible safety net and support system available to you all the time. Listen to the promises in Scripture when it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you've received it, and it will be yours. You shall do the things that I have done, and even greater things than these. Are you willing to trust those promises that you have all the resources you need to succeed, to achieve your dreams, to become fully who you came here to be? You know, the fact is, are you willing to trust that you have all that you need to succeed? God has given you everything. You know, I love that in Proverbs 3, verse 5, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding, and in all ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. So my question is, are you willing to trust God with all your heart? You know, to know that risk is an important thing. Take the risk of being true to yourself, and then are you willing to just trust that everything you've got is going to be there when you need it? And the third thing you do is you got to take some action. You got to take a step. You got to step out of the boat of your comfort. You got to go after it. You got to take some action and move towards it. Einstein said nothing happens till something moves. That you need to take some action. You need to do something different. You know, you need to take some sort of step and put things into motion. You know, there's a story about this kid, his father, they live on a farm, and the father's trying to make him more responsible. And so it's at night, and he's telling the son, you got to go feed the horses. Dad, I want to go feed the horses. It's dark out there. He said, that's okay, son. Just take the lamp, and you can go out and do it. And he said, but Dad, I'm standing here on the porch, and I can't see all the way to the barn. He said, well, son, how far can you see? He said, well, I can see down just to the front gate of the house. He said, well, then just walk to the front gate of the house. So he said, Dad, I'm not there yet. He said, son, why don't you hold the lamp up? How far can you see? He said, I can go see halfway down the path. He said, well, then walk halfway down the path. And he said, Dad, I'm halfway down the path. He said, well, son, hold up the lamp. How far can you see? He said, I can see all the way down to the barn door. What should I do? He said, walk to the barn door. And then he gets to the barn door. He says, Dad, I'm at the barn door. What should I do? He said, son, go in and feed the horses. See, sometimes we always don't kind of get what is really going on. The truth is, we think we need to know all the steps, and you know the only step you need to know is the next one. We always want all our ducks in a row and need to know the whole game plan before we start. Just start. If it is in you, just take a step towards it. And Spirit will reveal to you what the next step is and what the next step is. And very few people have the plan and with every single step already known. If it were, there would be no need for faith. There would be no need for trust. And we are here to demonstrate faith, to demonstrate trust. So are you willing to take that step and take that action? Because it's an important thing. Nothing happens till something moves. Bryce Courtney wanted to write a great book. And he got fired from his job. So he thought, well, I got some time. Let me write a book. But he said, let me write 4 books. So the first 3 books will be warm-up for my great book. So he poured his heart and passion into that first one. 1,100 pages later, he wrote a book, and it was called The Power of One. And so he put it away and started working on warm-up book number 2. Friend came over, and he said, where's that book? He said, it's in a closet somewhere. He said, what do you mean it's in a closet? Why don't you do something with the book? He said, no, that's my warm-up book. He said, no, why don't you just take it to an agent? He took it to an agent, and the book ended up selling over 2 million copies. And if he didn't take action, nothing would have happened. That book, first he had to take action to write it, but secondly, he had to take it out of the closet and get it to an agent. So I ask you, what step are you being called to take? What is it you are here to do? What are you here to say? What is the next thing that you are here to move forward with? And the thing that I think that's most important about a risk and the whole idea about taking action and steps and getting out of your comfort zone is that I believe that the reality is that it doesn't matter what the outcome is. Taking on a risk and a chance isn't about the outcome, but it's about what you become. Because every time you take a chance and step out of your comfort zone, you will expand. You will grow in wisdom. You will grow in understanding and faith and insight. You will expand in great and amazing ways. It doesn't matter if you, quote, fail or succeed. Just doing the thing will change you in a great and amazing way. Bryce Courtney once said, you will learn more from a well-executed failure than from a dreary success played within the confines of what you already know. That if you step out of your box and just try something new, you will gain far more than a simple success of playing it safe. Because something happens and expands you. Here's a perfect example. Remember when Peter was called out of the boat by Jesus, and he was on the water while he looked at Jesus. When he saw the storm, he got scared and he sank in. You know, so Peter didn't really succeed. But ultimately, Peter continually trying and stepping out of the boat, Jesus ended up saying, "You are the rock upon which I'll build my church." Why? He was willing to trust and try. That even if he didn't succeed every time he stepped out in faith and would take an action outside his comfort zone, something great happened. He became a rock of faith. Because we will all expand in great ways if we are just willing to take a step and take an action that we've never done before. So what is your relationship with risk? And what is a more masterful relationship you can have with risk? And the last thing I want to talk about is our relationship with our hearts. You know, most of us, we're very quick to close our hearts if someone disagrees with us or hurts us. It's really quick. We got the quick trigger on because we think that's going to protect us more if I just close my heart off. Close my heart off. How many people have ever closed your heart off to somebody? Okay, we're up to 12 now. Success, progress, it's progress. Every one of us does that sometimes, and we think it's protecting us. But the truth is, it violates and goes against our very nature. That God is love, and we are created in the image and likeness of God, which means we are created in the image and likeness of love. And to close our hearts goes against our very nature. Even though our human head is saying it's safe, it's smart, it's wise, it's the best, it actually blocks the flow of peace and joy and love. Love is the most healing, comforting, uplifting, joyful energy that there is in the world. It is why we are here. The greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, with all your mind, soul, and strength. It says we are supposed to trust God with all of our heart. You know, blessed are the pure in heart. It's to keep your heart open, not close it. You know, somebody once said, your heart is just like an umbrella. It works best when it's open. And so I ask you, where in your life is your heart closed? Where in your life have you blocked somebody out mentally or emotionally? And are you willing to begin to open your heart in love? Because we can never have mastery if we don't live an open-hearted life. A God-centered, a love-centered life with a willingness to keep opening our hearts. And that doesn't mean we don't set boundaries and so on, but it's to keep your heart open. We know the difference of what it feels like when your heart's closed and when our hearts are open. You know, the fact is, we live and move and have our very being in God. We live and move and have our very being in love. Everything in our life, love is in us and it's all around us. The question is our heart open, and are we aware and enjoying and letting it in and letting it flow? You know, in one of the early talks, I said that we live and move in love, that everything in your life is an expression of love. Do you know the sun is an expression of God's love? And the sky is an expression of God's love. The mountains are an expression of God's love. The birds' songs are an expression of God's love. Trees are an expression of God's love. That everything in our life, in our world, is an expression of God's love. I was in my backyard the other day. I thought, wow, my pool is an expression of God's love. My gazebo is an expression of God. My grill is an expression of God's love. I went inside. I started seeing God's love everywhere. You know, my couch is an expression of God's love. My remote control, that is an expression of God's love. There's a whole lot of love going on in our lives. You're in it. It's that chair that you're sitting on. You know what? It's an expression of God's love. Because everything in your life is supporting you and conspiring you for your happiness and success. The question is, can you open your heart to let that love in? Everybody just take a deep breath and just open your heart. So let's just say a few things. God is love. Take a deep breath. It is love. Okay, now take the deep breath. I am created in the image and likeness of love. Let's say it together. I am created in the image and likeness of love. Deep breath. I am love. Together. I am love. Take a deep breath. I open my heart to God's love. Together. I open my heart to God's love. Take a deep breath. And just open your heart to love. I know that everything around you is love because it's supporting you, loving you, and providing with you with all that you need to live life and to live it more joyously, to live it more abundantly. And so, every single one of us wants a great life. Everybody does. And the thing is, I don't think we need to wait to get a cancer diagnosis or have a near-death experience. We don't need to wait. That we could take a moment now and just pause and think, am I living the best life I could live? We all fall in ruts. But pausing and examining and saying, am I being the best person? Am I showing up in the greatest way? And what is a better way for me to show up? What is a greater way for me to express my joy and my beauty and to let my light shine? This week I invite you to work on a masterful relationship with risk. To not be afraid to take a chance, but to realizing that every time you take a chance, you open a path to greatness and magnificence and going to areas and experiencing things you've never done before. The word heaven means expansion, that every time you embrace risk and do something outside your comfort zone, you expand and experience more of heaven. And finally, the most important, master your own heart by keeping it open, because life is about love. And we don't want to keep closing our hearts to the very reason that we're here, which is love. Leo Buscaglia was saying about keeping your heart open. He said, because if you miss love, you miss life. And don't miss it, because it is the greatest thing in the world to experience love. If we have a more master relationship with anything we think that will stop us, not only will we live life masterfully, but we will discover that this life is joy. God bless you all.